First, I want to thank Congreso Futuro for inviting me to speak about bees, to speak about pollinators, biodiversity, and climate change. So let's start by pollination. Pollination is the migration of pollen to the stigmat. Once the pollen arrives on the stigmat, it migrates to pollinate the flower. So then you have two options. Or the flower of the plant can pollinate itself, or it cannot pollinate itself. So he had to find to get pollen from another flower from the same species, of course. And much plants are reproduced on this way, which is very good for exchanging genes, because you will get the genes inside the pollen, which will be bring to this flower, and so they will have a mixing of genes, which is very good for the flower and the plant to adapt. Let's look at pollinators. There is a few birds and bats which are pollinating the plants they feed off, and but many insects. Most of the pollinators are insects, and the better first one in this process are, of course, bees that we all love. Okay. There is also a love story between the flower, the plant, and the bees since millions of years. Plants have evolved to produce those beautiful flowers, which is very costly for the plant, but the aim is to attract the pollinator to get pollinated. So it's a win-win evolution, because in this case, the reward for the bee is the pollen and the nectar they feed off, and the reward for the flower will be to be pollinated. Okay, of course, I would say the main pollinator for us is the honeybees. Because you can have up to 80,000 bees in the same colony, so it's a real force to pollinate around in about 3 kilometer distance. But what are bees? If I tell you what are the birds, there is many species of birds. It's the same for bees. We always say bees, they are honeybees. No, bees, there are about 20,000 species in the world with a different strategy of living. Most of them, they live alone. It's what we call solitary bees. And then you have also subsocial bees, which are the bumblebees. And then you have the best, the honeybees, that she's so social that we call her asocial. But all of them act to pollinate the plant. And if you have a few different species to pollinate one kind of flower, it's much better. Now, the solitary bees, as you can see, can nest in different ways. Most of them, they dig hole on the ground to make a nest, but there is a very, very much different way to do that. And the key is to understand that bees are keys in terrestrial ecosystem, because they pollinate wild and cultivated plants as well. And we estimate that 80% of flower plant species depend on insect pollination. And looking at agricultural production, we believe that about 10% of the agricultural production value is due to pollination. Now you may have seen this picture. There is your breakfast on the left with pollinators, and your breakfast on the right without pollinators. So it's a little frightening if we don't have any more pollinators. And we believe that about 30% of the global food production come from culture which need insect pollination. But since 1995, we recorded important colony loss, mainly in the northern hemisphere, which could be up to 85% in Middle East and 38% colony loss in Europe, which was very dramatic. So we know now that there is many stress to explain those losses. First is global warming. Then you have pesticides. You have intensive agriculture, lack of food for the bees, and also what is more focused on honeybee colony, it's predator like hornet, mites. You have bad fungus, and also a bunch of very bad viruses. Okay, but the number one problem for bees are insecticides. Insecticides, they are used to kill the insect. The bees are insects, and this is why every year you have a big problem with honeybee colony died because intoxicated by pesticides. And those pesticides, they are everywhere now. They are not only on agricultural area in soil, they are also in natural area. They are everywhere. Even in our body, we have different pesticide compounds at the moment in our body. And when we look at in pollen, we can find up to 19 different toxic compounds, which are under the level of toxicity for humans, hopefully, so we can eat those compounds. But the fact is that there is 19 different molecules, and with probably additive and synergetic effect on bees. So it's not really good for the bees. And if we look at herbicides, it is the same. It's not good for the bees, but it's also not good because when you have this kind of area where every leaves is dead, there is no place, no room for the bees, and it's really problematic worldwide. So, do you want a love story? You want a love story? Yeah. I will give you a love story. So, this plant, Campanula, is fecundated, pollinated only by this bee, Melita. And the Melita feed only on Campanula. And they love each other so much that during the night, Melita will sleep on the flower. Is not nice? But if you use insecticide, you will kill the bees, and the plant will not be pollinated and will disappear. But if you use herbicides, the bees will not be able to feed and will starve to death. So it's a big problem. So what I want to say, you know that, but using pesticides means destructing pollinators and also destructing the plant they feed off. Now, when you have such intensive agricultural practices with huge field of monoculture, there is no room for the bees. When you have more and more concrete and asphalt created by humans, no more room for the bees. Oops. When we look at climate change, we know that we will have increase of temperature, different rainfall, modification of season, more extreme climatic events. So what's happened with honeybees? With honeybees, not so much dramatic because the forager can adapt. When it is too warm, they will fan. They will fan the nest and they will go to forage water to calm down the temperature of the nest. But when it's raining too much, they will not go forage. If it is for too long time, they can starve to death. What about global warming and flower? If it is too dry, you may have a huge field of flower, like where I live in Provence, in France. There is lavender fields, so it's very good for honey. But if it is too dry, you will not get the nectar coming on the flower. You see? And so more and more the beekeepers, they don't go there because they come back with nothing. So it's a big problem. And when it's too much raining, the flower will be washed, and the nectar will be washed out of the flower, and there will be nothing to forage for the bees. So I have two extreme examples to tell you. This honeybee, Apis sahariensis, a very beautiful honeybee, lives in the oasis of Sahara. So you imagine that with global warming, most of the oasis will disappear. So it means that we will have to move those bees in other areas. As well as in Piauí area in Chile, in Brazil, it is so dry during the summer that if you don't feed your bees, they will just die. So the beekeepers, they are obliged to go and feed their bees. But basically, we all agree that raising temperature and reduce precipitation decrease the diversity of foraging resources, pose serious risk to bee nutrition, ecosystem functioning, and food security. Now, if we go back to our honeybees, in fact, there is about 25 subspecies of honeybees in the world, in this part of the world. And as you can see, you can find bees in very cold climate, as well as in very hot climate. So this is why I don't believe that there will have, let's say, a big problem with honeybees disappearing of the globe. Why? Because in many countries, most of the honeybee colony are in the hands of beekeepers. So if the environment of those beehives and the apiary became not nice for the bees, beekeeper will move them in better environment. So they are very lucky. Because it's not the same with all the other species of solitary bees. Let's say that you have some solitary bees in this environment, which is not very nice to be there for a bee. First, they are more sensitive to pesticides compared to honeybees. They nest on the ground, so they may be destroyed by agricultural trucks. And they forage in a very limited distance compared to honeybees, I would say a few hundred meters. So there is no way they can survive in such environment. And this is why there is more and more bee species on the red list of endangered species or disappeared species. Now, as you can see, there is many stress on those bees. It's very scary. So now, what could we do? We could first we could conserve existing resources for the bees because there is still, hopefully, a lot of them existing. We should also create other resources of bees. We are doing that in Europe. Okay, it's not too bad, but it's not enough. What we should do, we must protect the bees. We should keep increasing the space for the biodiversity. We should fight global warming more and more. We should improve agricultural practices for bees, and it is what we are starting to do at the moment in Europe. We should, this is very important, I put that on red, as you can see, reduce the use of pesticides. It's not an easy topic because farmers, they need pesticides when there is a population of pests, and so they need it. But we know that we can decrease and reduce drastically the use of pesticides. But we should do it, and we don't do enough on that. We should also improve pesticide assessment, which is, I would say, quite rudimentary at the moment. And the proof is that regularly some pesticides are put out of the market because they are killing bees or they are bad for us and so on. So they are not well enough assessed. So let me explain this story in France. So honeybee loss in 1995. The same years, neonicotinoid compounds are arriving. It is a new pesticide, very strong pesticide, arrived in France, and of course the beekeepers say it's because of this neonicotinoid. So as we like to do in France, we make revolution, we burn bees in Paris, in Brussels, and scientists try to be interested on this topic. And in 2012, scientists of my lab published in Science that, of course, this is very bad and kill our bees. But few months after, the Minister of Agriculture in France banned the pesticides. So you imagine it's unbelievable to protect bees. Congratulations. It's not the same with Europe and other. Yeah, okay. So what are the solutions? We must preserve them for future generations. They are of high relevance to humanity due to their irreplaceable nature. And by the way, I have a question to ask you. Do you think bees are wonderful? Yes. Excuse me? Yes. Je vais répéter la question. Yeah, I also believe that bees are wonderful. But why do we destroy what we think wonderful? Think about that. Okay? So we cannot afford to have bees disappearing, pollinators, and we should push on our politicians. And it can work, but we should do that. And we should also educate around us in our family, in the college, university, everywhere. And it works, but we should do it. And, okay, save the bees means save humanity. So please go ahead and go ahead now. It's very important. Thank you very much. Thank you, Florence. Love you.